in our community posted this morning that it took them 15 minutes to close a client that's moving over $900,000 for him to manage. Does it sound realistic? Here's what actually happened. Let me share my screen with you. And it is 100% true. So the title of the post in our community that he made is "Coming Along for the Ride." If you've watched some of my other videos, you've heard me use that term in the past. And I'll describe what it means, but this post summarizes it perfectly. The advisor says, "I just had an hour and 20-minute meeting with the client of one of my accountant partners. After following the process over the past couple months, we made the recommendation today to do an investment into oil and gas fund for the tax and investment benefits, getting a decent fee for the work, which is nice." Now, let me pause there for a minute. That means that this advisor followed our system, formed an accountant partnership. Together, they led the accountant's client through a proactive planning process. I happen to know this scenario. They talked about, does opportunity zone make sense for the tax planning aspect? Conservation easements, oil and gas. Ultimately, obviously, they chose to move forward with the oil and gas. But here's where it gets exciting. The second paragraph. The last 15 minutes of the call was, oh, and by the way, about that $900,000 401k he has hanging out there. The client's rolling over the 401k for this advisor to manage. And he says, if you had told me 5 years ago that it would take me 15 minutes to close on an account that's almost $1 million, I would have thrown you out of my office. It just came along for the ride and was the easiest part of the conversation, just as Anton describes it. So the term "just comes along for the ride" I started using a couple years ago when it happened to me with one of my CPA partners. And I realized that basically all of the work I had done to establish the relationship with the CPA, as long as you set that up right, they can transfer that trust that they have with their clients to you. And then you get to benefit from the credibility that is already built. And as long as you focus on bringing true value to the client, you don't go in there trying to manage assets. You don't go in there trying to sell an annuity or sell insurance. You don't do any of that. You sit down with the accountant, and together the two of you lead the client through a proactive and holistic planning process where you identify the client's needs. You prioritize the needs based on what they think is going on. You do some research. You identify what potential strategies meet these clients' needs. You educate the client. You let them make the decision on whether or not they want to go forward. And by the way, you get paid for all of that work. That's the planning process. By the end of that, the client gets to make an educated decision. And with the partnership with the CPA, they decide where they want to go. And lo and behold, all of the things you used to compete for, like I remember sitting down and talking about illustrations or how much I'm going to charge or what my basis points are, or what the income rider is, like all of these things that I used to compete on are now irrelevant because the client trusts me. I've brought them value, tremendous value. So now it's just almost like a foregone conclusion that they're going to work with me for the other stuff, right? The other stuff is what most of us in this industry have made our livelihoods on. But if you focus on the CPA partnership and you focus on bringing value, you create a win-win partnership. You teach and you train and you role play with the CPA how to introduce you to their clients. You help them understand how they benefit. And it's not always just sharing in commission or sharing in management fees. It's much bigger than that. It's about working with less clients, but going deeper with each client, building deeper relationships and bringing more value. That value translates to revenue to you and to the CPA. Okay. So that story depicts perfectly why I think this model is so much fun. When you truly can build strategic win-win partnerships with 2 or 3 CPAs. I'm not talking about trading a couple referrals here and there. That's so outdated. Like if you're still going about it in that way, it's not going to work. And if it does work, it's not going to work very well. It really never has worked that well. But true win-win partnerships, and when you do proactive and holistic planning, you lead them through a process. You're backed by a virtual family office. So regardless of what comes up, you know you have the expertise standing behind you to get it done. And then the AUM or the investments or the life insurance or the annuities or whatever it is that you currently do just comes along for the ride. It's a much more fun way to grow a practice, to help clients, to build relationships, and I think to create a legacy. So if you haven't watched some of our other videos on how to form win-win partnerships with accountants, this won't work. You will not get to the point where this just comes along for the ride. So make sure you watch this video here next on how to actually understand what's in it for the CPA. Watch this video next, and I hope you found this video helpful.